Hey everyone, welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast. Today we're going to have John Monk on as our guest. Dave is going to kind of lead this episode. Dave, do you want to give us just a very brief idea of what we will be discussing today?
We're going to have John on to talk about commerce and creativity, writing in different genres, and feeding yourself as an artist and feeding, your readers and feeding your career, writing some commercials. That's stuff we've kind of talked about on the past few episodes, actually. And John seemed
it's a definite trend, right? Yeah. If it's a trend, we need to address it and make sure it's being done well. This is a good example of that.
And John is somebody I met when I was talking about Karma Police coming up. A lot of people in the indie community said, "Oh, you ought to check out John Monk's The Jenkins Cycle, because it's a similar idea in the whole body jumping sort of thing." And I was like, okay, that's cool. And then we started talking back and forth in email, and I hadn't had a chance to read his book yet. And I just emailed him, and I kind of gave him, a broad outline of what my book was going to be like. I want to make sure they weren't too similar, and they didn't think like I ripped them off or anything, because I was ripping off Every Day by David Levitan.
Make sure you get credit for ripping off the right books.
Right, yeah. If I'm going to rip somebody off, I want to make sure, everybody knows who I ripped off. I don't want to get accused of ripping the wrong person off. But anyway, we started talking, and our ideas were not similar, and we got along really well, and enjoyed my conversation with him. And I've been on a podcast with him a couple times, another one that he does. And yeah, I figured why not have him on, because I think he's doing something. He's doing the Jenkins Cycle, but he also has a young adult series that's doing really well for him.
Oh, that's cool too, because young adult's not easy nut to crack.
Yeah, Hell's Children, and he also wrote a smutty sort of book. I hope that I'm allowed to say. I think he said everything was cool, so he's writing that under.
Better hope a lot.
It's cool. Yeah. He said he'd be willing to talk about whatever we wanted. So.
All right. So who wants to hit There's Something Cool? I mean, I can go first, but do you guys, either you have something you want to?
I have one. I normally do something like, oh, I saw this, I read this, whatever. But today is a new app. And so I know this will not apply to everybody at all. But it's called Spark, and it's an email app for Mac, and I love it. Like they're
set your email on fire.
No, but it's their tagline is "Make you like email again," and it just has a really nice interface.
Did it deliver on that? Because
it sends you lots of porn.
No, it's it's not fun, but it groups stuff. Like it definitely pays attention to your behavior. So like, for example, notifications. This is something cool, and I actually don't like this. I need to turn it off, but it's an example of the kind of features. So notifications, it will never give you an email notification if like for some newsletter thing or something. But if Dave emails me, I'll know. If Amy emails me, I'll know. Like, it knows that those are my people and those are my emails.
And Dave get notifications that when Amy emails him that he wants to ignore it?
So, right. So,
and when I email Sean, it goes, wah, wah.
So I actually want to turn that off in Notification Center, because if I have email off, I don't want to be notified about emails. But I think that's a really cool feature that you can set it to. Look, I want to see notifications from these 5 people regardless, and that's really cool. They also have all these preset replies that are like, stupid, like smiley face and stuff like that, but they're custom. It also knows how you tend to sign off with various people, and will fill in those blanks for you. It's really, really cool. I've only been using it for a couple of days, but it's fast, it's zippy, and as much time as I spend in email, like I've always hated webmail in Gmail, and I like the Mac Mail app, and that's kind of been my default forever. But I don't think it's as good as it could be, and it's definitely not keeping up. Like, it doesn't feel like a 2016 app, and this feels like the app that should come with the Mac. Like this feels like what Mac Mail should feel like. So anyway, if you're on Mac and you like using apps for your mail, check out Spark. It's really, really cool.
Dave?
I don't have a second something cool other than the story I'm writing right now. I don't think we've given out the title yet, have we?
We have not,
Okay.
for sure. And it's not coming out for a while, so I wouldn't.
Okay. Well, all right.
Dave is writing something named something, and he can't tell you anything about it, but
something.
spot on.
It's very awesome. It's a thriller series. It involves a serial killer and a cop, and I'm just absolutely in love with the series. I mean, we're only on the first book right now, but I really enjoy being in this world and like returning to the book, like when I'm ready to write for the day. Like I sit down, and it's not as daunting as some of my other stories have been, and I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe it's kind of the book that I've been wanting to write for a while but haven't.
Well, what has your process been on this? Have you guys planned things out more ahead of time?
Well, yeah,
a different process, right?
Yeah. We planned the thing out well in advance. The only negative here is that we plotted the story out, but it wasn't. When I got to writing it, there's a lot of stuff that didn't work, and I don't think there's any way I can know it didn't work until I was actually in the story. But a lot of like police procedural stuff, and when one thing didn't work, a lot of other stuff fell apart. So I had to, do some heavy lifting, which I had not anticipated, which kind of slowed me down a little bit. But I feel it's a great
It's
book.
the best you've written in years, as far
And I'm
as
going to guess that the difference in prep is making a difference. You're talking about police procedures.
it absolutely is. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
This was the most.
It started off. It started off a lot faster. I think towards the end, like what we had just would not work, and I had to go back and change some things in the beginning to make it work in the end.
Yeah, we should have had another story. I mean, we should have.
Well, I think the lesson here is that the more you're prepared ahead of time, the more you can figure out what's going to happen as you go down the road, and the faster you can work. And even Dave is saying, best writing I've done. And I just got to say, what could you possibly get? What service would provide the same sort of level of Dave lifting
Or
ability?
did. We actually
did.
a story jacket for this.
And I would say that would be a Sterling and Stone story jacket. Would you not agree?
Yeah, I just blew the punchline.
That's okay. I talked right over you. So you did get a story jacket from this from Clark.
Yeah, we did.
Say more.
We did, and it was great. It was. I think that I've never seen Dave happier in pre-production. Not even close. He was ready to
Story
write.
jacket made Dave happy.
It did. Well, no, there's two things here. Our story jacket made
Not
Dave
many services can say that.
Well, tell me about the process, because Clark has gone through story jacketed our stuff without
story
me.
jacket in that place on the corner where the guy hits you in the nuts with a barbell. Those are the only two things that have made me smile in the past 2 years.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, it was well worth it. Yeah, it made him smile, and more than that, it 10x'd his writing. Like, Dave was having a very difficult year. He had a difficult year last year, and he is
lots of difficult years.
He does have lots of difficult years, but he's nailing this project, and that's really awesome. Clark took our general outline. It started with our story meeting. We had a very definite idea about characters and direction and kind of the story we wanted to tell. And then Dave gave me 500-ish words.
There's more than that.
No, that's right. I asked for 500 words, and Dave gave me a bunch of different scenes, some really full scenes, actually.
2,500 words.
Yeah. And then we turned that into an actual 40 scene outline. And then once we had that, we gave that to Clark, and he gave it a story jacket and really filled in a lot of holes that I had left and got Dave excited about.
Did you notice any inconsistencies that would have been a problem going forward that were able to be fixed ahead of time?
I don't
or tweaked the direction, made it more suspenseful or interesting.
I don't recall inconsistencies, but
it would happen, but we don't have inconsistencies.
Yeah, it wasn't an inconsistency. It wasn't an God.
Our roughs are so great.
It wasn't an inconsistent.
Clark could barely. He looked
oh my God!
I don't know what to do here.
So Yeah, it wasn't inconsistency so much as questions, like a lot of questions that made us understand the story better. Like, oh, well, we hadn't thought of that, but yes, yes, yes. And if you answer enough of those questions, then you fluidly know the story. And, Dave knew the story, at least enough to get started and to be excited about it. And that's made a huge difference for us.
So if you would like a story outline that Dave can be excited about, if you'd like to be excited about your own story from the beginning and have the confidence to write it because somebody who knows story has gone through it with you and been there by your side, then you should get a Sterling and Stone story jacket. It's sort of a developmental edit from the outline level rather than having to spend, what was it, $60,000 for a developmental edit?
$60,000. Yeah, that's how much they're running these days.
Zillions of dollars. So that would be at sterlingandstone.net/storyjacket. He only does 2 a week, and they're booked out for a while. So if you think you might need one soon, get on the list.
Bet if we gave him ayahuasca, he could do more than 2 a week.
I bet you he could do 92 a week.
So that's sterlingandstone.net/storyjacket. I just had to insert that before my something cool because it was a natural segue. But I actually do have one, and it's Gilmore Girls: A Year in the Life.
Oh, did you finish it?
No, it's seasonal. So they do. I think it was winter. Yeah, it was winter, and then spring, then summer, then fall. And we're in the middle of summer because it's just they're an hour and a half each. And what I like about, first of all, I really loved Gilmore Girls when it was new.
I did too.
But there's something about, it's not a spin-off, and it's not a sequel either, but continuing an old franchise that the world has just gotten better at. I don't know how to say it any other than that. But it used to be that it seemed to me that whenever somebody tried to revitalize something old or do a sequel on something that was old or do a spin-off, it was shit.
Like, did you ever see the Facts of Life reunion? It's like the worst thing ever. It's so terrible.
No, I didn't.
Well, it ended with that gun scene where the guy just walked in and shot everybody.
It ended like it was the same ending as the Serbian film.
But it was. But it's just
they copied.
I think that writers they're just better. They're just paying more attention. And what I love about it is that it has all of the snark and snappy dialogue from the original series, but it's almost like it's gotten better. Like there are some scenes in here where, like, I thought Gilmore Girls was awesome, but there weren't many scenes that I actually laughed out loud at. And there have been a few in this. There's a town meeting scene that's just spectacular. There's an endeavor that they do, which I won't spoil what it is, but a town thing, a project, and they go through it, and that's just amazing. And I love that they went ahead, and it takes place 10 years after the old series, so everybody's a little older, looks a little different. But they didn't.
Do you know how long it actually is?
10 years.
Oh, it is 10 years.
Yeah, it was 10 years. So the actors are literally 10 years older, but the stretch in time is realistic. Like what would have occurred in the interim is realistic. And they owned it rather than trying to step away from it. They didn't try to reinvent literally the exact same thing. It's like they said 10 years later, what would this be? Which is a little different. And I just really respect what they did, and I'm really enjoying it.
That's really awesome. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Logan says, yeah, that Walker, Texas Ranger movie a few years after the series ended. I don't know if he's kidding or not.
Did you ever actually watch that?
Oh, I hate it.
I see a few people saying no spoiler. I didn't give any spoilers, did I? I was very careful not to.
No, you definitely did.
Did you see, speaking of Chuck Norris, did you ever see that thing? You know how Google does those little Easter eggs? Did you ever see the thing? I think they only did it for a little while, where if you Googled Chuck Norris, it would say, like, the answer, what it came back was, you do not Google Chuck Norris Googles you, and it was a whole thing.
That's awesome.
Well, with that, I see that our guest, John Monk, has joined us. So I'm going to hand sort of interview control over to Dave, and I'm going to welcome John as our guest.
Hey, Mr. Monk. You have a very cool name. I like your name.
Yeah.
Is your audio on yet?
Testing.
Hello.
Yes. We are good.
All right. How's it going?
It's going great. I'm happy to be here. I wore my clean shirt.
You're happier to be here than Dave is.
By quite a margin, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I introduced you earlier in the show, and I told everybody how your book, The Jenkins Cycle, was out. And when I was talking about Karma Police on the air, the series I was writing, or am still writing, with Sean, people had reached out to me because they'd read your book and they said, "Oh, you ought to check it out." And I did, and I liked. I only got halfway through the first book. No offense, but I got busy. But I like what I read, and we started talking, and I enjoyed our email conversations. And I was concerned, like that I might be stepping on your toes, even though I was really ripping off David Levitan.
He was ripping off me, but that's
right. Well, you actually said you said yeah, like I heard about David Levitan's story after mine came out too. So it was one of those cool things where we were both kind of concerned about it, and you were like completely cool about it, and I just enjoyed our conversations a lot, and I figured, okay, well, let's have you on the air. Oh, here you are.
Well, I loved your book. Yeah, I finished it, but
did you read all three though?
No.
Okay, so we're square.
The equivalent of the wedding scene. The first book is the wedding scene.
But I did. You know what was interesting is that
we didn't like enough to read all three. But yeah,
we had the same kinds of questions as we went along. Like, how do you deal with memory? And there were some other questions, but that was one of the ones I kept on going, oh my God, I had to deal with this. Oh my God, I had to deal with this little aspect of body jumping. How do things taste between different, people, and how do things sound, and like, how do you become accustomed to your new body and all that kind of stuff. And I thought it was interesting. Your little body jumps happen a lot quicker than mine. Mine are like 3-week cycles. And my guy has like a perfect eidetic memory. He could remember, if he wanted to, he could count up every breath he ever took, that kind of the
That's
memory.
That's a favorite story fetish of mine, the photographic memory. I just love that.
Yeah, it solves issues. He uses it to get around town. He can look at he just, in his mind, he goes and looks at a map and he goes, oh, okay, I know how to get there. Because he saw a map, however many rides ago. I call them rides. What do you call them? I forgot, Dave.
Jumping. I don't give a proper name.
Okay.
Other than that.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. I didn't think for a second that, you ripped me off. That'd be like someone making a cop movie and going, I'm ripping off, the first cop movie ever made back in the 30s or whatever,
Yeah, you hear?
Yeah.
One of the other things we were talking about was how we both had our characters were concerned about the lives that they were in, and like not fucking things up for people, which I thought was interesting.
That's right. That's one of the things. In my case, he always enters the bodies of bad people.
Yeah, he doesn't mind fucking their lives out.
Yeah. I had to change that up a little bit in the books, because it gets a little hard sort of sticking to one little thing. It's just the craftsman's problem, but he shows up in the body of like a bad person, and then he meets somebody who's good. He doesn't want that good person to kind of come looking for him if he gets kicked out, because there'll be a terrible personality change and bad things will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So recently you began a new series, a young adult series, Hell's Children.
Yeah, Hell's Children. It's funny about it, calling it a series. If you were to go look at the product page, there's nothing about the book that says series. And in fact, you could think it's a standalone, probably because there isn't a book 2 yet. Book 2 is about half done. But so I guess what's interesting to me about that is when I first started this whole self-pubbing thing, and I was listening to your show and everybody else's, I got this idea that you had to write in a series, and you had to get like 3 to 5 to 9 books or whatever before it would start getting read. So the Jenkins cycle, which is not written to market, nobody knows it exists. Nobody knows where to find it. People like it when they find it, but I wrote that as a series and it never took off. And I was like, what the hell? And so it was literally like a month before Chris Fox wrote his Write to Market that I decided to essentially write to market. I said, I'm going to write a book that people might be looking for. So I thought post-apocalyptic. And then because I'm not quite as smart as Chris, I didn't do as much research, and I ended up making it kind of like a YA mashup of post-apocalyptic YA, kind of Lord of the Flies. It's like a world where all the adults die, and what are the kids going to do? Despite that, it sold. It sold really, really well. for me. I don't mind throwing around numbers or anything. It's made, in the last 6 months or whatever, something like $24,000. That's like a big deal for me. And it became a particularly big deal this year. And I hate to filibuster and I'm not looking for sympathy, but I just want to just tell you, I want to share. But my wife, literally like a week after the book came out, while I'm sitting there, promoting this darn thing, she came down with cancer. It was, uterine cancer. And she's totally cured now. Okay. So otherwise I wouldn't bring it up. And that book and the money I made paid for that. It was about $17,000 in bills with insurance.
Wow. That's
Sean, you're
awesome on many levels.
You're on mute.
Sean, you're on mute. I know it's rare.
Oh, I'm saying it's. Well, what about
Sean
me?
was talking.
I was just saying that's really, really fantastic, and not that she got sick, but the whole story. That's
yeah,
really
agreed.
Thank you both. I appreciate it. Yeah.
So, so what made that book a success? What, how did you find readers for it? First of all, I mean, did you have the existing readership that you had for the Jenkins cycle? Did a lot of those people go on to read it?
No, they're not. There's almost no crossover. I mean, I have seen a slight pickup in the Jenkins cycle, a slight pickup, like, a daily sale or 3 more since I released, but that's not
about how well Karma Police is doing.
Yeah, it's well, I want to answer your question. Why did it do well? Well, okay. So I didn't have a very big mailing list, right? It was like maybe 200 people, and almost nobody bought it from the mailing list. But what I did, and this is going to sound I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but I have a lot of friends in the indie community now. I've like emailed all of you guys or messaged you, or like I read Fat Vampire and I sent you the typos. There weren't many. It was a great book.
That seems to be the way that people get in with us. That's Sarah did the exact same thing.
I love it. I love it when people send me the typos and they don't put them on Amazon.
Agreed.
Right. Okay. So I know a lot of indies now, and I don't ask them for favors or anything, but this time I did. I said, hey, could you like at least tell somebody about it? And weirdly, they started sending them to their lists. So I had like 6 or 7 people hit their lists, and 3 of them were badass big name kind of author types, folks that you've heard of, hybrid types, that kind of thing. People who write in that genre. I didn't hit up my romance author friends who were just absolutely killing it. I hit up post-apocalyptic / horror type folks, and some of them have blurred my book. So you can go and see the thing on Hell's Children's product page, like who said what. And what I did was I made a little spreadsheet, using Microsoft Excel, and I made sure that every single day had an activity. Okay. So I made sure if it was released on Wednesday, that day was covered. So I looked at the things I couldn't control, like BookBub telling 85 people, hey, John's got a new book out. So I couldn't control that. They're just going to do it when they do it. And that happened on day 1. So I said, that's my day 1. And on day 2, like my buddy P.T. Hilton says, I'm going to put a YouTube video to my, 135 subscribers or whatever. So that was my day 2. And day 3, a big name kind of author said, I have an incredibly active Facebook page with just gobs of people that just reply like crazy. And I'm going to boost your post. If you give me like $50 or whatever, I'm going to boost the post over however many days you want. And at first I was just like, boosted posts are sucky, but he's such a nice guy. And, I trusted him. He seems to be very successful. So I gave him $50, and I just wish I'd given him 1,000. It was the most successful strategy yet. So that he covered like 2 days. And then I had a big name indie author guy who, he's never hit his list for anybody, and he volunteered just out of the blue to hit his. And it kept on happening. People just kept hitting their lists. And I wasn't even saying in my Facebook page, oh, so-and-so hit their list like I'm doing now. I'm not trying to encourage this. They were just doing it. And then I every once in a while I would put something in Facebook and go, hey, wow, I'm so close to 1,000. And of course, I'm just genuine. I'm not trying to goose it, maybe a little bit, but I'm close to 1,000 now, guys. And I'm so happy. And then like Kevin Tomlinson, oh yeah, you're close to 1,000. Well, wait till this happens. And then he would like tell his Facebook fans. So anyway, despite that one, I would always make sure that something happened. Like there's another author who hit his various lists over the course of 3 days in the coming week. I had a bargain booksy because ENT was just tired of my non-selling ass. You know, they just didn't want anything to do with it. And so every day, you know, there was something kind of going on. On top of that, I did a pre-order. I followed the launch to market. I read launch to market. And I did a pre-order. He said do it for a week. I did it for 2 weeks. I've seen other people. It seems like if you do it for 2 weeks, then you can start getting into also bots. So I wanted to get into also bots, and I did a secret also bot kind of thing. I mean, a secret pre-order. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't want Kick kind of showing up in the also bots and things like that. I wanted it to all be natural stuff. And what I did is that's when I used Facebook ads. Facebook ads are just doing terrible for me. I can't get those costs per click down. But it's the only way I can see to advertise a pre-order. I'm sure there's some kind of clever ways, but that was the clever way I knew of. I did Facebook ads. And I was able to start goosing the also bots kind of ahead of time. And I wish I had thrown more money at that.
John, what kind of results were you getting for that? So do you know on average about what you were paying for a Facebook ad to get a pre-order, one pre-order?
No, I didn't do any kind of tracking cookies or what do you call it? The
pixels?
The Amazon
the
associates. Yeah, affiliate. That's it.
Yeah, because this sounds like a real know your why. Like you were doing it specifically to get also bots, so it mattered less that you were like ROIing, correct?
Yeah, I didn't care about that at all. I mean, what I was buying was sales rank or also bots.
Well said.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And in fact, that's the other side of this is when it launched, and this is the biggest, boomiest thing yet. Amazon sponsored products, holy sheep dip. I mean, those things, now you can't do it. You guys are like wide as hell. I stopped being wide. I had an Apple rep lined up to just promote it. You know, I had a good relationship with her, and I hope I didn't ruin it. But I had to try. And I read Launch to Market, and he's like, you got to do it. You got to do it. KU. And I even emailed him. I said, should I do it? Should I really do it? I got the Apple rep, and says, well, this is what I'm seeing, and that's what I used to get. And Chris Fox made a really compelling argument for just sort of not, for not going wide, at least in my situation. And it really did work. So the Amazon ads, man, I was getting as good as about 1 per 1. So I would spend $20 to make $20. I did a wide range of different sort of targets. I got my best results from the really broad categories like fantasy and new or that, like the big wide stuff. And I got really, really good returns. Like I was making money off of the ads that were like Target, Johnny B. Truant, or some fat vampire or something very specific, but obviously more appropriate for post-apocalyptic. Those suckers, I didn't move a lot of volume, but the volume I moved was very, economical and stuff. And so I was spending, like I said, spending for $20 a day for about 3 months. And going back to that, what I said before, I was just buying sales rank. And I was also doing something really kind of cool, which is I'm associating words like post-apocalyptic with my book. So for like the first 2 or 3 months, if you just typed in post-apocalyptic, I was always on the first page.
Well, that's awesome.
Always. And, I was in all these great also bots. I was on like either the first, second, or third page of their also bots. And I guess, they don't waste your money over on Amazon. If they're clicking your ad, it's because they're on a site to buy a book, and that ad is the book that they want to read. So they click the ad, and it takes a little bit of effort more. You have to make sure your product description almost exactly mirrors what you're trying to say in the ad. Don't be clever and say, a boy with a feather in the darkness you don't want to be all just, if it's a story about a world where all the adults have died, this is a world where all the adults have died and the children must fight to stay alive. And that's what they need to see when they get to the product page, because otherwise I wasn't doing that. I was being all fancy, and I was like getting 200% losses and stuff. People were clicking the crap out of the ad because they thought it was a book about kids going to hell and having to fight, in the fiery infernos of hell.
So people are looking for that book. Okay, we're going to write that one.
Yeah. So they were looking for that, and they would get there and go, oh, this is a post-apocalyptic thing. So, and then they weren't clicking it. So I changed my product description, I changed my advertisement copy around and just started crushing it with the Amazon ads. Yeah. Those Amazon ads are amazing.
In the comments, Tammy said that Amazon ads are available wide now, so you don't have to be in KDP Select any longer.
Ooh.
So he's getting out now.
Are they any good though? I do wonder if anybody's had any experience with.
John's been working with them, and
but John was working with them in Select. That's what I'm saying. I wonder if they're any good when they're wide. We've
anytime there's more people in a pool, it dilutes results for a little bit. Like that has to correct itself.
And do you think, John, for your ads, were a lot of people borrowing as well?
Yeah, a tremendous amount of borrows from my experience. I think I peaked at about 55,000 page reads in a day, which was like massive for me. I don't know about. I think Lindsay Baroker crushes like 100K a day or something like that. But for me, I'm no Lindsay, right? So yeah, I was getting a lot of page reads, but I think I heard somebody else who dropped out of Select and was getting lots of page reads before they did it. It translated over into sales, but I don't remember who that was. So I don't know if that, maybe it's just, I'm just making up rumors here. Sorry.
So now that you've had this success and you were able to help your wife out, which is amazing, you're obviously writing the second book. Do you plan to go back to the Jenkins cycle at all, or write in a different genre, or are you going to go with the one that's working right now for you? What's your plans?
Yeah. This is the hard part. I really don't want to write in series anymore. Hell's Children. I really don't want to. Yeah. I think, did you guys have a show recently about this?
Many, I think. Yeah. It's been a topic of conversation in the company for a while.
I proved that you don't need to. At least I proved it from my stuff, at least for post-apocalyptic. You can sell a book, not market it as it says at the end of the book that it's a series. It's going to be a book too. If I hadn't put that, it'd just be a standalone forever. And I don't, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that I think that you can sell a standalone. I think that the economics shift maybe for a different reason, because it can become a loss leader. So for instance, we have a promotion coming for Invasion here soon, and it kind of doesn't matter how we do on book one because there are 6 after it. So I think you're right. I think you can absolutely do a standalone, but I think that you get more economies of scale on the back end if it's a series. Because I'm with you. Sean and I were just having this discussion. Oh man, does it suck having to close boxes? Wouldn't it be nice to just write some standalones for sure?
Yeah, you're right. It would be nice to have 9 books waiting after my Stormfront, Dresden Files novel, and just make tons and tons of money, or my Fat Vampire series. But you know what it is? So I'm writing this book too, and it's kind of a slog. There's some, obviously I'm enjoying the parts that I'm enjoying, and I'm kind of a pantser who wants to be a plotter, so it's tough. It's easy as hell to pants that first book, but pantsing a second one. So I find myself trying to plot, and I'm not a very good plotter. So I'm working on it, and hopefully I get that out there. I got book 2 in the.
Sounds like someone needs Story Jacket.
Yeah, we feel you on our second books have always been a little more challenging for that reason, like more to keep a hold of, and you can't pants as well at all. I would say the book we're working on right now is a sequel, and it's the first time that we've really like buckled, and it was the story jacket, all kidding aside, that made us do that. Our outline is just solid.
That's awesome. I wish you could write an outline for me. That'd be cool. Do you ever get that question, by the way? Do people ask you to write outlines for them?
Well, that is kind of what story jacket is.
Sorry.
So hold on. No, it's not. Just I understand.
Well, no, not us.
Before anybody
Clark Chamberlain is
Yeah.
helping. He's we explained it in the ad read before, but Clark is our new developmental editor, and he basically goes over your idea and your story, what you have, and he finds the weaknesses and kind of helps you flesh it out. It's basically like getting a developmental editor at the earlier stage, so not after you've already written the book.
But to be clear, he's not writing it for you.
No, not at all. But it definitely helped me on the book that we're working on right now, because I like pantsing a lot. In fact, like I'll plot something out and then just fucking reject half of it and go crazy.
I've seen it every
my
time.
pants off and run around. So this helped me a lot because I run into trouble when I do it my old way. And when I hit the wall, it's sometimes very hard to put the story back together. So that has helped me. Figuring out ahead of time has helped me.
Yeah, I'm sort of hard-headed. I don't know that I could give my stuff to somebody and have them tell me what's wrong with it, because I don't know. I've never, in my own mind, I've never been wrong. It's terrible. That sounds so obtuse. I know that.
Well, what about writing? What about writing it? Writing the story. Going through like a whole first draft, but the first draft, you're not writing the whole story. You're not writing it as you would. You're basically like writing like a few paragraphs for a chapter in place of a chapter, and maybe some dialogue and stuff. Basically, you're kind of feeling it out. So you're kind of getting that first draft pants feel, but at the same time, you're kind of outlining. And I don't know if you're doing anything like that right now, but I think because for me, it is part of the process going through the book, because that's how I find what things don't work and where I find the better path all the time. I have to take a few wrong turns before I find that better path. It's very much a part of my process, and that is something that I think would help you.
I think that's brilliant, actually, writing a few paragraphs like chapter 27, what the few paragraphs were for chapter 26
right.
were, and you kind of spell it out, and then it's like cheating almost. It's like I get to write the book without
right.
That's actually brilliant. I think I'm going to try.
You're writing the Cliff's Notes version of the book. So you have to think it through, and you have to like consider all the options of what you would do. Like when you're pantsing, like what will this character do? How will he or she get out of this jam? So you're actually having to think through all of it, but you don't have to write it all. You can come back and write it all.
Wow. That's really cool. All right. I learned something.
Wow, you're all lit up.
So you also recently you wrote an erotica book. You want to tell us about that and what made you do that?
I guess I got to now, don't I?
Well, you did say in the email that you would. I offered you a chance to keep it secret.
I did. I'm kidding. What's funny is I couldn't, because I'm slogging through Hell's Children 2. I decided, I want to write when I'm excited about something.
So important.
So erotica.
It's funny. Before I wrote the erotica, I wrote. I'm going to plug this. It's you guys know Justin Sloan. So So I wrote this little Minecraft thing that's not selling very well.
You wrote it?
I wrote that.
Oh, cool.
It's like a little Minecraft thing, and then I wrote the thing with Jay Thorne. American Demon Hunters. I don't have that with me. I did that as well. I wrote this erotica thing. It's because it's like I want to write something different. I don't want to write the book too.
Have you tried Minecraft erotica?
Oh God.
Oh, gross.
I'll get rated.
Stampy Long Dick.
So the erotica thing was just fun as hell. I have a friend who is absolutely killing it writing spicy romance, erotica / romance or whatever. He actually got picked up by Random House. Okay. He went from indie to Random House.
Does he write under his name or a female pen name?
Sloan. Is Sloan both a male?
It can be male or female.
So I guess he chose the androgynous route. He presents himself as a guy on Facebook, though.
Okay. And I know exactly who you're talking about.
Okay.
Am I allowed to say?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Why
Because
not?
I don't know you. You didn't know if this was like that's got to be Sloan Howell.
Yeah, that is. That's right.
Yeah.
And we're good friends. He had read Kick in its natural format in the wild, picked it up somehow, and contacted me, kind of like how I contact you guys. I'm like, hey, what's going on? You guys rock. And he's like, hey, I read Kick, and I read it halfway, and it was really kind of almost good. Yeah. So anyway, he pimped me out to all his friends and everything, all his readers, and I couldn't pass up the opportunity to give it a try. So I read some smutty stuff. I'm like, I could be smuttier than that. And I wrote this story called Bad Intern. My author name is Luke Mason, and I chose a guy name. And the reason why I chose a guy name is I have another friend who buys houses with her romance money. And I'm like, should I be a girl or should I be a guy? And she's like, be a guy. The women want to know what's going on in the men's minds. At least that's what she says. They want to know how we think. It seems more believable. But she was telling me this because she thought I was going to write it from a guy's perspective. So I wrote a story called Bad Intern from a female perspective. It's got some pretty good reviews, so I don't think I did too bad.
How long is the story? Is it like a full book?
Nah, it's a little novella. I just wanted to get my feet wet. I just wanted to dip it in a little bit and see what's going on.
Just a tip.
It's terrible. Yeah, so it's about 14, 15K. It's about 10 little 1K chapters and some change. And it's a fun story about an intern. She's absolutely wild and very Bridget Jones meets Sex in the City, and they're just doing it all over the office building over a weekend. And it's really messy and fun. Yeah. And I enjoyed the hell out of that. So it was a fun story.
So is that one selling all right, or is it too early to sell? Or
no, it's not selling all right. But what it did is got me a crap ton of signups for a little 99 cents, write it in a weekend kind of thing. I think I'm at 175 now, which is pretty good, So, and of course I know Sloan. And so if I write, everybody wants to read the next one. They say they do. I got all my art and everything, my Facebook page and everything. So if I feel like writing another one, like a bad waitress or, bad astronaut or whatever you call it, I can just keep on writing them and eventually it could make money. They do seem to want a longer story though. I thought erotica, it's going to sound funny. I thought it wouldn't sustain if it was more than just a novella,
Mm-hmm.
So I was wrong. They expect longer works. So I got to write something longer.
What do you want to write? I mean,
And is it erotica or romance?
It's, my buddy Harvey Click told me he didn't think it was erotica. He thought erotica would be more kink,
Because Sloan writes romance.
yeah, it's not about kink. It's erotica is sex before story and romance is story before sex.
Yeah, this is like about 50-50. I think I thought it was story-driven sex. So maybe whatever that is. I think it's slightly more story-driven. I couldn't
Well, if it's 50-50, I'd say the sex is strong enough to make it erotica.
Okay. All right. Erotic romance, somebody writes. Okay. Yeah. I saw the chat.
Yeah. Well, okay. So Tammy says, if you took the sex out, do you have a book left?
No.
very short one.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's erotica.
She arrived at the office, and then the night was over. The end.
The pizza person came to the door and delivered the pizza, then left.
Where's my coffee? It's already 5.
It's just a lot of fun. And what's interesting? I was talking to Sloan, and apparently there's these taboos you can't do. Like he says, you can't have any cheating in your story. The main character can't be a cheat. And I'm like, really? Because that's I thought that would be kind of cool. Like sort of one of those housewife, apps where you can cheat on your husband, like maybe in all the crazy adventures that would go on.
Okay,
I
but
think you can write a sexy story that occurs in, but you can't put it in the romance category, although eat you alive.
Erotic.
Interesting. Okay, so I have a lot to learn. But the story seems to be believable. I somehow passed it off as something that people could enjoy, and I love that. Going back to Sean's question, what the hell do you want to write?
Mm-hmm.
I just like being excited about writing. This was a challenge to me to write something like this. It was so different. Hell, even writing Arnold the Crafty, my little Minecraft thing was totally different. I'm writing for little kids, and I have to just, it was just really interesting writing a plot, and I was sneaking in little jokes all through it, and I love writing
Play
humor.
Minecraft?
A little bit. Yeah, I had to go to the wiki and read up all the stuff and everything to make sure I could get it grounded enough. And then it was beta read by P.T. Hilton's daughter, who plays a ton of Minecraft. And I think Justin wrote for the Minecraft universe, so I had to get past him too.
Yeah, I wanted to do something like that because my son loves Minecraft, but I wasn't sure what the copyright stuff was because I know at one time it was like open source and to some extent, but then Microsoft bought it. So I don't know if they like clamped down on the books that people are writing and stuff.
No, I think there's some rules, like you don't want to say it is, you can't say something like it's a Minecraft book. You can have the blocky characters. I think somewhere in the dust jacket inside, we say something like an unofficial Minecraft adventure. So they don't seem to be cracking down on it, and that's good. I mean, I sometimes these lawyers, they want to crack down on stuff just to prove that they're defending their copyrights and stuff like that. So,
well, we've had it explained to us. Basically, the situation is if you don't do it, then if somebody were to like run with it and like make a success for it, and you never fought for the copyright before, you'd have like less legal ground to stand on. To some extent. I don't know how much of that's accurate though.
It makes like an easement almost, like when you let someone cross your property for the last 50 years and then you sell the house, you have the right to continue crossing the property because there's an easement.
That's why I have mines all over my property.
Not the places I was hanging out.
Well, I have a path right to my bedroom window just for you. I know I need to inspire your erotica.
It's a decoy window. All right. So did I answer that? Yeah, I want to write I just want to be excited about writing. And when you've been there, like I went to Hell's Children and I wrote this post-apocalyptic world, Lord of the Flies kind of thing. And it wasn't as dark as I wanted it to be. I read The Long Walk and I got inspired to write this. And The Long Walk is pretty effing dark, and it's the best.
Stephen King story?
That's Stephen King.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Richard Bachman.
Yeah,
He wrote that in a day.
that's a great
Right.
story.
He wrote it in a day.
I seem to remember that. I seem to remember him saying that. I could be totally off, but I seem to remember that.
Probably with the help of a lot of cocaine.
Probably.
I give up. He wrote that. That's like my favorite Stephen King book, and he wrote it in a day. Great.
I think. Well, it's one of the Bachman books. It's a smaller. I could be. I'm probably totally off. I seem to remember it. Maybe it was a week. I remember because he was going through how fast he writes. It was in on writing. I'm probably off. But.
Okay. Well, yeah. So that inspired me to write it. I thought, what was interesting? I thought I can write a book about kids, and it can be as dark as I want it to be, and yet it's still YA. And that goes into my theory about YA. I think that when you write YA, you don't write it as a parent, don't write it as a priest who thinks that children are these special kind of, I don't want to say special snowflake because that has different meanings now. But there's just like
date. Some priests like to date children as well.
Yeah, well.
You don't always have to. Sometimes it's okay. Just
30% of the time.
My priest played hard to get. Okay, that's what I'm saying. He didn't slut it around. Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is the kids, they cuss when their parents aren't around. They want to stay up after bedtime. They want to see R-rated movies. They want to be adults when they're not. They're always pushing the envelope. And so if you write at an age a couple of years more advanced, even a decade more advanced than what you think the kids want to read, the kids are going to want to read it. They're going to want to, like, I remember I was in junior high. I was like, yeah, I want to see Porky's. It's a rated R movie. Kids wanted to see rated R movies. They didn't care about the rated G stuff, but the parents bought on the rated G stuff and bored the hell out of them. So you want to write, and I think YA in such a way that, you're kind of pushing that envelope a little bit. So I wrote a world where all the parents are dead. The world is just stacked to the heavens with guns and ammunition. and the kids are going house to house grabbing it, and there's starvation and there's no medicine. It's bleak as hell. But it wasn't as dark as I wanted it to be. For whatever reason, there's just something in me that just didn't make it. I held back a little bit.
You need my assistance, I believe.
I think there's two bearded guys endorsed saying that all kids in middle school should go watch Porky's right now. I think that's what just happened.
Come on, when you're in middle school, didn't you want to watch Porky's? Come on.
Now what about
Yes.
what about sexual content for young adult? Because obviously teenagers are having sex, but do you write it into young adult book? I don't know the rules. I know Sean has said he's read some stuff that had a surprising amount of
I've been surprised by some of the stuff that I've read that my daughter is reading. I don't have a problem with it. Like, whatever, like, we'll have the conversation if she has a question, but I was surprised.
I tiptoed, and I had to address it. So there's a pregnant teenager. She's like 16. She got pregnant when she was 15. The cutoff point for living seems to be about 15. Almost nobody makes it that it lives if they're about that age, but there's a small percentage that do. And they're the ones who lead all the little kids and everything. So she was pregnant. Obviously, she came to the story pregnant, so I didn't have to deal with that. The main character has never seen a naked girl before. He looks through a window, sees one, and he's like, oh my God, what's going on there? He's like, naked people everywhere. What's going on? And I never get into it. I don't describe it or anything. He sees someone with their clothes off, because I just, you want to address that and then show where your line is, and then, you make people comfortable and make people feel like, okay, well, I feel realism is, that's the thing. For a person to get into a book, they got to trust that the author is, competent, and that they can deliver something that so resembles reality that you care what the stakes are when you put them in danger. And so by addressing these types of things, showing, people who maybe die of infections, and people who are pregnant, and people who see their first naked girl for the first time, I'm saying,
I'm still waiting for that.
This is reality. Yeah. So this is reality, and you can kind of like squint your eyes and kind of get into the story. Just suspend the disbelief, as they always say.
So are your readers, do you think that they're mostly adults, or have you heard from young people that are reading it?
I think they're mostly adults. I think that they're, to sell in those numbers, the people who contact me, the people who sign up on the lists, I think the signups are definitely adults, because kids wouldn't do that. People who contact me, I've seen people say, I read this and now I'm going to get my kid to read it. A lot of people, there's a strong survivalist prepper kind of element to the story. The main character's name is Jack. His parents had him when they had him when they had him in vitro, in their late 50s, and they figured, and by the time the kid's 20, we might be dead or so useless, going around with a cane, and we can't really take care of him. We better make a survivor. So basically, they didn't just train him like how to kill with one punch stuff. It's more like you're going to start a business when you turn 11.
It's Sean's parents, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that story that you were very entrepreneurial.
I find that a lot of the young adult books, like I do think a lot of older people are reading them, and I think part of that is because young adult books seem to be doing like more speculative sort of fiction, more like big idea sort of fiction than perhaps other genres. And I don't think it really matters so much whether the people in the book are teenagers or adults. I think it's the ideas that are really selling these books, and it's just I think it's a good time to be a reader of the young adult stuff.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it'd be like to have picked up books like this when I was a kid. I mean, all we had was like Ender's Game,
Yeah,
that's all I remember.
Stephen King back then, so. But I don't remember too many like young adult specific books. Like the books that were geared towards teenagers back in our day, they weren't all that great. So at least the ones I remember. Maybe I just don't know.
Yeah, well, it's like I think that the books that I was reading like the Xanth series, and these are stories that you could say are for young people and adults, because they're sort of like they're very like, wow, it's a magical world and
Is
stuff
that
like
Piers Anthony?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
my friend loved that series.
I think of them as sort of young books, but they don't have kids as the main character, you know? But these days, like all the young adult books have like teens and kids as the main character. Yeah. I mean, do you think of Lord of the Flies as a young adult book? It's got kids as the main character, but I thought it was really more for adults.
Well, I mean, they always had
You always read it in school.
Yeah, in school.
I think they were just prepping you in school, though.
Yeah.
The real world is real.
Yeah, I think that Dave's parents said, read this. This is how life really is.
I tried reading it. You know, I wanted to make sure I didn't like kind of copy. I did kind of like I pulled a Dave. I wanted to make sure I wasn't kind of copying somebody. I had never read it. So I read it before I wrote my book, or rather during a little bit, I guess. And I don't want to like sound like I don't want to sound like a jerk, but I just found it almost unreadable. Yeah. I think it's because
written quite a while ago, wasn't it?
I think it was written in the 50s. I thought it was the 50s.
Yeah, a lot of books, I don't know. They don't seem to hold up from that. And not all books, but a lot of them don't hold up. And I think it just might be a difference in the writing style for our generation versus like ones that came before. They're just a little more dense to get through.
He also made the kids in the story, I guess, a lot crazier and flighty, and whereas if you look at the Long Walk, the kids in that story were very, I guess, sophisticated. Well, they're believable, yeah, and they're sophisticated. They weren't like what you think kids should do. This is what kids would do. You know, I tried more for the latter. You know.
Yeah, I think if we can identify, we can identify with our audience, that it makes a much better book. And like back in the day, they were probably like, they probably had no fucking clue what kids were really like. So they wrote these unrealistic kids.
Huh. Bastards. All right.
So what is what's next for you? I mean, you're writing the second book. Are you going to write in other genres? You're going to write more standalone books? Have you decided what you're going to do?
Well, I'm tempted to write military sci-fi, and I think we all know why, but I definitely want to, I'm kidding. I definitely want to, Chris Fox, but I definitely want to write other things. Post-apocalyptic, I have a really cool idea for post-apocalyptic that I want to write. It's not young adult. I almost want to see if I can, you ever want to like kind of like spike yourself almost? You want to just write something that like, okay, I want to see how many people I can piss off and write this story.
Dave
does that every book.
That's pretty much his template. Like he has a template and just says chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3.
Who can I alienate?
Right, alienation. Piss people
alienation. Off. That's what it is. Alienate. I've got this story for a post-apocalyptic that involves cannibalism with the main character. So I have that idea, and I'm kind of curious about that. I have some ideas for sci-fi stories that I like, and I like all of these as being non-series, even though it's kind of like you won't make as much money because of the sales funnel type thing. And you know what? I also might write a Hell's Children 3 if book 2 goes really swimmingly, and I'm really excited by the end. I might just roll right into book 3 and see what happens.
So are you setting up different mailing lists for the different genres? I mean, obviously the erotica one.
Yes, I am.
Hell's Children, the YA has a different mailing list than your other series?
Yeah, it does. Okay. And it's now my biggest mailing list. It's got like, I think it's not as much as all those other folks out there. It's like 300 or something like that, but it's only been out for 6 months and it generated the list on its own.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to do something like Insta Freebie, but I'm in Select and I don't like the idea of just putting up a teaser and saying, hey, you should go get the whole book now. I want to give them a whole book. And that's the sucky thing about being in Select is you can't do promotional type things like that, even though it's going to make Amazon way more money,
Well, so it's time to wrap up. John, what do you want people to know most about? Where should everybody go and flock at this point?
Oh, to kind of
website.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could. I figured something for you, but if you want to,
or your home address.
Literally,
Yeah.
like where should they go and line
Curtains
up?
open.
All right. Well, you can friend me on Facebook if you want. I'm not like Hugh Howie with maxed out at 5K.
You're not going to post naked photos of you on a boat either?
Oh my God, that was hilarious.
Oh no, I'm not gonna. I don't have that body. That guy. Yeah.
Nor do
All
I.
right. Or you can go to my website, john-l-monk.com. There's a lot of stupid dashes in there. You'll find my email address there. You can send me a note. I'm not into making money off of, my fellow artists or whatever. If you send me a note and say, hey, I want to read one of your dumb books, I'll send you the book.
Dumb books.
Okay, what if they send
Hey,
the
asshole.
All right, well, thanks so much for being on, John. It's been great to meet you and to get some tips. I want to the ads and stuff is something that we're working on that actively right now. You'll see more of that in the self-publishing podcast. So again, thanks for being on.
Thank you.
And to the rest of you, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.